Critical midterm elections coming up. How high are the stakes for Donald Trump's presidency?
First off, I don't think they're midterms. I think that the opposition party media, the Democratic Party, the entire permanent political class aligned against President Trump in the campaign and then after he took office have won one big victory, and that is they're going to get a do-over. People that think about this as a midterm, it's one of the things that we're trying to pound into conservatives' heads. This is a reelect. It's all on the table here, right? If they take the House, if the Time's Up movement, the resistance, this is as high a stakes as possible. If we lose the House, the Trump presidency will grind to a halt.
You just used the term pound, and today is actually the day that you've released the trailer for your new film. Now, it depicts the coming election as a violent battle. Why so extreme?
Well, I think if you look at what's happening in the streets with Antifa and these neo-Nazis, everything, that the country is really almost like the 1960s. To a degree, because of the two sides of what's arguing, you see the country is coming apart. And I think all these issues have to be put on the table. And so it is a time, it's a time that the country's quite divided. And that's why this midterm is so important. That's why the 2016 election is so important. You have to decide it at the ballot box.
You say yourself that you won the 2016 election. You were just talking about the chaos in the campaign, but you won that election with not a lot of money, as you say, and really with fear and anger. Do you think that you can rely on the deplorables to come out again this time?
I'm not so sure it's fear and anger as rationality. I think working class people and middle class people in this country realize that something's wrong, is that, upon their shoulders rests the entire tax burden, and upon their shoulders really rest, this kind of liberal post-war international order, the kind of globalist system that's out there, right? They are quite rational. So now what you're going to see, I think, in this election is there's still a lot of anger out there. And I think that this anger can be harnessed. This anger can be harnessed to have another big victory for Trump. The one thing different in 2016, the Clinton campaign, as we were joking beforehand, we were fairly disorganized, except on the ground. We had a terrific ground game. In addition, Trump had this kind of powerful populist message, which she missed. She really went for identity politics. They also didn't take us very seriously. They saw a collection of kind of quasi-amateurs. We had a lot of people just kind of filling the gaps there, and they didn't take us seriously. The difference in this election is that these groups are what I call fully woke. They understand exactly what's going on. They're looking at the right congressional districts. So this one's going to have to go in kind of full consciousness. You're not going to sneak up on them like we did last time.
You mentioned the Time's Up movement. Now, just for the sake of our audience, that's the extension in America of the Me Too movement.
It's the high. Me Too is about sexual harassment. Time's Up is really about the power dynamics in society.
And accuse that man, Mr. Weinstein, and brought him down by using their voice. We need to do the same for Trump.
You describe it as being primal.
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
I mean, it's trying to upend 5,000 years of kind of the way civilization's been structured, whether that's Hindu, Islamic, or Judeo-Christian Western civilization, kind of the patriarchy. It's after that. And I'm not arguing whether it's right or wrong. What I'm saying is that this movement is much deeper than the sexual harassment. This Time's Up movement, if you listen to its leaders, if you listen to what its ideology is, I equate it kind of like the French Revolution. The French Revolution was very primal and tried to go to the core of society and upend it and restructure it. And so I don't agree with the ideology. I have a lot of respect for its latent power. I've seen it here in the United States since the day that Trump has been elected. It's one of the most powerful forces politically we have in the country today.
One of the things that's happening is that Donald Trump has lost some support, particularly amongst college-educated white women.
Yes.
Do you think that on the back of these movements like Time's Up and Me Too, do you think that, are you worried actually that now, this time round, women are going to punish Donald Trump for his behavior? Not
punish, but I'm very worried. Let's go back to 2016. I think one of the things that shocked people is we won white women 52-48. We won high school educated white women, I think 69-37 or something like that. These are extraordinary numbers. There's definitely been a softening. My argument about this re-election that's going to take place on November 6th, or the midterms, is that there's not time right now, okay, to go out and do a lot of outreach on either policy or tone, because I think a lot of this is tone. A lot of these people just see Trump as a disruptor, and they just don't like the style. I don't know if it's punished, but one of the realities that I keep telling people is that we have to be very focused on the fact that the numbers we had in 16 among college-educated women, both Republican and independent, are not going to be there.
Not coming back. Now, you've really challenged the Democrats to make the midterms an election about impeachment.
Well, they have. So here's what I think. If you look at the grassroots of the Democratic left are doing exactly what the Tea Party movement did in 2010, and I admire the fact they have enthusiasm for what they believe. I don't believe it, but I believe in democracy, and what they're doing is going out and getting votes. They're ringing doorbells and knocking on doors. I said, hey, they have made this a referendum on Donald Trump. I'm just saying we got to face reality and not sit there and go, oh, well, let's lose, and then we can run against the House.
So if you lose, though, if it doesn't go the way you want and that referendum goes against you, is that the end of your agenda?
No. Come on, we're gonna have good days and bad days. We're gonna win and lose.
Well, so hang on, it can't be a referendum on President Trump and you lose and then you just move on.
I think the accomplishments he's made in 18 months are extraordinary. The other thing you have to remember, too, which I say is a strategic major advantage of this, by early October, if it looks like it's not going to be a blue wave, I believe that the left in the Democratic Party is going to turn on its establishment. Remember, I've been at civil war with the Republican establishment for about 10 years. The Democrats have not had their civil war. There's been no Breitbart. There's been no guys like Bannon that wanted to take on the establishment. I believe if they do not deliver a resounding victory on November 6th, and that victory is tied to impeaching Donald Trump and stopping his program, you're going to see an internecine war start in the Democratic Party that will take years to go through. It's something that should have happened years ago. It should have definitely happened when Clinton lost in 16. How could they have $2 billion, have a candidate like Clinton, that entire apparatus? Here you got Donald Trump and a collection of clowns around him, and you lose. They weren't held accountable because, oh, guess what? The Russians stole it from us, okay? That was their cover. If they lose this November, the civil war inside the Democratic Party is going to consume them for years. It's going to make Donald Trump's re-election in 2020 a foregone conclusion.
You're different from quite a lot of your colleagues in that you respect Robert Mueller.
Yes.
You're not asking for him to be sacked, are you?
No.
What's the difference? Why not?
Well, first off, Mueller is a combat Marine. I mean, he's got a tremendous record in the FBI, et cetera. I was one, as a public record, I was quite opposed to firing Comey. And the reason is I don't think there's any collusion. I think it's very imperative for Bob Mueller to finish the investigation, but I think the report's got to be issued before the November election. I think the American people got to weigh in here.
Presumably Robert Mueller's just going to do that, finish that report when he sees fit. And if there is evidence of crime, either of obstruction of justice or a crime that effectively is collusion, then impeachment is a natural course. You accept that?
Well, here's what I think is going to happen is I think Mueller are already dealing out for people in Australia, whether it was Cohen, whether it's Manafort, as he sees potential crimes already, he's dealing those out to prosecutors to take those to trial. If the American people back Trump, I think the Mueller thing will fade away over time unless there's real evidence of specific crimes that have to go to prosecutors.
And which presumably you can't really know what happened. You can't really know whether there was collusion in the inner circle of Trump's campaign at times when you weren't there.
Look, as the CEO of the campaign, in 88 days when we were down, 12 or 16 points the day we won, we couldn't collude between the RNC and the Trump camp ground game in Pennsylvania. I've said from day one, there's no collusion. If they think obstruction of justice comes around firing Comey or what happened on Air Force One or with Jeff Sessions, then he ought to put it in a report and he ought to bring it before Congress, and let's see how the chips fall. I'm a big boy and I've got a lot of respect for Mueller. I've also said, and I was one of the guys around when Rosenstein got picked, I have said from day one on this issue of Crossfire Hurricane. A Crossfire Hurricane is the code word for the investigation that the FBI counterterrorism started about the Trump campaign.
Started with an Australian.
Started with an Australian. Well, how that Australian got into it is going to be quite interesting because there are subpoenas. Not from Trump. There's subpoenas from Capitol Hill, from 5 different committees. Okay,
are you suggesting that our former Foreign Minister Alexander Downer, who was at the center of the information about the emails that came from Russia, which became the FBI investigation, are you saying that he did something wrong?
I am saying what I want to see is I want to see those subpoenas executed. I want to see the information. At the end of the day, the intelligence apparatus works like the post office. And what I mean by that, there's a chain of command and there's an approval for everything that went on.
Let me cycle back.
No, but I think it's the heart of what Trump's fighting every day.
I understand.
People call it the deep state. It is not the deep state. This is in your face. Okay? And this crossfire hurricane goes to the beating heart of this kind of what I call the nullification project of President Trump. It is outrageous.
Trying to shut him down. So
but by the way, they were trying to shut him down even before he got into office. That's the key thing. This crossfire hurricane with the Australians, the British, all started in the summer of 2016. People just have to keep this